It took 4 years and a series of engagements at the diplomatic and military levels for the two leaders to meet. Modi was categorical about what should be the contours of the ties going forward.
सीमा पर शांति और स्थिरता बनाए रखना हमारी प्राथमिकता रहनी चाहिए। म्यूचुअल ट्रस्ट, म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट और म्यूचुअल सेंसिटिविटी हमारे संबंधों का आधार बने रहना चाहिए।
Less than a month after it was agreed to reactivate bilateral mechanisms of engagement, the two foreign ministers met in Brazil on the sidelines of the G20 summit. So, what was agreed upon? According to a release put out by India's External Affairs Ministry, discussions focused on the next steps in India-China relations. It was agreed that the meeting of the special representatives and of the Foreign Secretary Vice Minister mechanism will take place soon. Among the steps discussed were the resumption of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra pilgrimage, data sharing on trans-border rivers, direct flights between India and China, and media exchanges. The two ministers felt that it was imperative that the focus should be on stabilizing ties, managing differences, and taking the next steps.
So are India and China ties set for a reset? Maybe. If you go by the statement put out by Xinhua, the official Chinese news agency, it seems that the two nations are on par or on course to actually get their relationship back on track. It says India and China must look at their differences in the right perspective. There are more convergences than differences is what Xinhua has pointed out, and has also talked about putting all these differences in the right perspective rather than harping on those differences. India's statement, on the other hand, after Dr. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, met with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Brazil, talks about specific measures to be taken to take the relationship forward. For example, resumption of the Mansarovar Yatra, also direct flights between India and China to be resumed, and also said that the relationship will take its time to go back to what it was pre-2020. That is something that one has to watch out for as we go forward. But there are signs of some hopeful forward movement, because Defence Minister Rajnath Singh of India also met with his counterpart, an admiral from China, at the ADDM+ Defence Ministers meeting in Southeast Asia. And of course, the movement of people-to-people contact that has taken place. So we'll have to wait and watch what happens on that front.
Yesterday, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh met his Chinese counterpart Admiral Dong Jun at an ASEAN event. Rajnath called for reflecting on the lessons learned from the unfortunate border clashes of 2020, take measures to prevent recurrence of such events, and looked forward to greater trust and confidence building between the two sides through de-escalation.
Can India and China go back to the normal ties that they had before Galwan happened on 15 June 2020, when for the first time in 4 decades the troops clashed and there were casualties on both sides? Well, India does not trust China fully, because the way it has thrown out all the agreements that India and China had signed between 1993 and 2013. And therefore, we'll have to weigh the consequences of getting the ties back to normal. But the Chinese side is very hopeful. It is pushing forward normalization, probably because they have a bigger fight on hand. President Xi Jinping realizes that with Donald Trump coming into the White House, he has to be on his toes and has to completely take on the US aggression, which is bound to come after Trump takes over the White House on 20th January. And therefore, perhaps he wants to protect this flank with India. Economic downturn in China also does not help, and therefore he needs China needs Indian market, which is big and which is varied, for sort of offsetting the pushback against China in European and American markets. All this points out to something that might improve between India and China, the relationship. But again, India will take one step at a time, as we have said earlier. The breakthrough, of course, started in Kazan with Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping meeting there. But these steps will be taken deliberately with a lot of effort, a lot of thought, and a lot of analysis before taking the next step. So that's something that India and China will have to really work hard upon and not plunge head on into trying to reset the ties which have been fraught for last 4.5 years.